everybody, and welcome to Happy Hour with Maestro Tim. I am Maestro Tim, and today is the day. It's hard to believe, 4 years ago, almost to this very day, the great pianist Emanuel Ax came to our community. He gave us the incredible gift of deferring his fee, and he created one of the most amazing cultural events this area has ever seen, and is to this day one of the great musical memories of my life. And he's back for more, and it's my privilege and pleasure to welcome Manny Ax to Happy Hour. Manny, welcome. Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
I was teasing you off camera. You've got some facial hair here. I think during the pandemic, everybody's been doing some very creative things with their hair. So what's with the beard?
Well, just it was last March that everything closed down. All the concerts that I was supposed to be doing just stopped, and of course you know why.
Sure.
And I just thought, well, there's no reason to shave, so I didn't shave for a while, and now people seem to like it. My wife is thrilled. The less she sees of my face, the happier. Everything's fine.
Well, great. Listen, I want to take this time to toast your generosity of spirit. A lot of the people who are watching right now usually have a cocktail with me, and I'm drinking, I think, what you would call an Italian spritzer. It's basically just sparkling water with a little bit of Aperol, which is a sweet orange liqueur that's just slightly bitter. It's perfect on a warm day like here. How's the weather over there, by the way?
The weather is not that warm, but very beautiful.
Okay, well, we got something that's quite warmer here. So, Manny, I toast you. Thank you so much. I almost fell off my chair when you agreed to be my guest, and I'm just absolutely honored. So before we get into the pandemic and what's been going on in your life in the future, I wanted to talk about 4 years ago when you came. People are still talking about it. The gift you gave to this community is so unbelievable. You started this initiative of plucking orchestras, regional orchestras like Orchestra Iowa, and to perform with them every year. What was the genesis behind that initiative that you did?
It's hard to say because it was a lot of different things. First of all, I have a lot of friends that I went to school with who play in these, who are wonderful musicians and play in a lot of orchestras around the country. I think it's so wonderful to have more people maybe who will attend concerts and who maybe will get interested just because it's something a little bit different from the normal run of things that orchestras do. So
right.
if someone says, "Oh, I'm coming to do a couple of extra things," and maybe we're making some kind of arrangement, whatever it is, it's just something a little different, and it's like Groundhog Day.
Right.
Anything different is good.
Yeah.
You know? And I think groups like Orchestra Iowa are so wonderful, and you're so wonderful to be doing so much hard work just to get people exposed to what can be such a wonderful experience, hearing music in a concert hall. You know,
well, it was so energetic. It was so magical that week, and I got to tell you, from my own selfish point of view, I think what touched me most is seeing 80 musicians on stage giving their level best at an intensity rarely achieved. And it just shows you that excellence can happen anywhere. Magic can happen anywhere.
I still believe that the most wonderful thing about music is that it crosses all barriers. You don't have to know anything. You just have to be human.
Right.
And somehow something will touch you, whether it's watching people do brilliant things on an instrument, you know, the way I would go to a basketball game without knowing very much about basketball, but to see these people performing feats that are incredible, you know,
right.
Or whether it's the beauty of what you're hearing. as you might appreciate the beauty of the arc of the ball,
Right.
falling into the net without touching the rim. Uh, Whatever it is, I think music is open to everybody, and the more chance we give people to hear it, the better.
It sounds to me that you've been following March Madness with so
Actually, I'm more of a pro basketball
pro
guy.
basketball.
So it's been, I'm a New Yorker.
Sure. So you're a Knicks guy then.
It has been many lean years.
Yeah.
But of course, I'm an old man now. I'm now over 70, and I come from the time when the Knicks. That was
That was the heyday.
by. Yes. Yeah. Well, no, the 70s. This was the time of Walt Frazier, Earl Monroe, Willis Reed before he hurt himself, Dave DeBusschere, and our Senator Bill Bradley.
Right, right. Yeah.
But so
Do you still
Yeah.
catch the odd game?
oh sure,
Right.
sure. Now of course my daughter lives in Brooklyn now, and the Brooklyn Nets have a wonderful team now.
Right. Right.
We've stolen a couple of superstars from various places. Anyway, sorry, I got
No.
off.
There's a question I've been dying to ask you, and I felt kind of guilty when you were here because we worked you hard. I mean, we really, really worked you hard, and I felt a little guilty about that. As you've been doing this with sort of orchestras, what lessons have you learned about time management and expectation setting for future orchestras who you may be doing this with in the future?
Well, I'm actually even in the middle of all this. I'm supposed to go to Sioux Falls, South Dakota,
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
3 weeks to work with that orchestra on the same sort of basis.
Sure.
And we're going to do a few events at a couple of schools that are open, and I hope we'll all be safe. I'm going to do a couple of small concerts and then one concert with the orchestra. And again, we have protocols, the masks will be on.
Sure.
The wind players, I gather, are all vaccinated. So these are all things that, we're dealing with now. But I hope it'll be a little bit of what we did in Iowa.
Right.
So I hope to be busy as well.
How did you find us? I mean, how do you say this is the orchestra I'm going to work with this year?
Well, usually it's sort of word of mouth. People, I have someone at a management who looks after me,
Right.
and this lady knows a lot of people, has a lot of friends, and people will tell her, this is a wonderful group of people. They have a wonderful music director, Tim Hankiewicz, and maybe you should think about going there. So a lot of it's kind of word of mouth,
I have never heard my name pronounced properly, like you just did, because you were born in Lvov, right? Or yeah.
Second nature.
Wow.
But I hope that there'll be more of us doing this sort of thing, because we all need to be part of a big community.
Correct. Yeah.
Not only a musical community, but just generally a community. I think one of the things that's been so depressing to me this year is how divided we've become in so many ways. How we seem to politicize everything. And so far, we've been who are involved in classical music. So far, no one has politicized Beethoven versus Mozart.
Right. Oh, we'll get to that. No, I see what you mean. Yeah.
I hope it stays that way, but
Yeah.
I also hope that somehow we can bridge all these gaps, and find areas that we passionately believe in and agree about.
Right.
So many of us in the country do agree on so many things. It's just that we tend to talk about the things we don't agree about.
Modern technology has helped us a lot through the pandemic like this. However, it's not the same as interpersonal communication. And I personally believe that's part of the problem. I mean, a lot of people, you can be meaner to somebody if you're not if you don't see them as a human being. This actually turns everybody into a two-dimensional object rather than a flesh and blood person.
I'm sure that everyone is hoping, is so grateful, as you say, that we have these possibilities to connect on the internet, but also can't wait to be able to go and give somebody a hug.
Right. Yeah.
Stranger,
Right. Yep.
And we're getting closer to that. I hope we can just hold out a little bit longer and somehow just be careful for another little while, and then maybe we can all.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm going to go check our chat room because there's a lot of people who are watching, some of whom probably are dying to ask you a question. And when I get back, after reading some of these questions, I'm going to share a story, a humanistic story about you that I'd be surprised if you would remember this, but it's one of the reasons why I admired you so much when we first met many years ago back in Kansas City. But first of all, let's go to our chat room to see what's going on. Wow, lots of people. Caitlin Hartman, she's so excited for this happy hour. Diana Nolan, she remembers your residency as spectacular. Ann Nolan also says yes as well. Diana Nolan, she's writing a story about the orchestra as we speak. So Diana's drinking water. Well, Diana, on another day, you and I will have to raise a glass with something a little bit more potent than that. Jen Way, who played in the orchestra, can't believe it's been 4 years. Danny Redmond is drinking Red Breast. And let's see what else. Barbara Green, you are a national treasure. And Siobhan says, yes, love it, magic. Bunny Tomes, man, it's just coming and coming. It was such a magical week. You made such an impression on us, Manny. I can't tell you enough. Carla Gettle, she says, thank you, Emanuel Ax, for your extraordinary generosity towards Cedar Rapids. I've wanted to offer my gratitude for 4 years. Your performance of the Brahms was a lifetime memory for me. Joyce Finch, who is our board president, your passion and huge heart shows in your words, your performance, and your generosity. And Kathy Varney says, what an honor. So, as your head is probably swelling, I'm going to make it even larger because there is a funny story. I think it was the first time I met you in Kansas City. Your wife was performing with you. It must have been a double piano concerto, probably the Mozart or something. I don't recall the piece exactly, but as what many orchestras would do, that weekend you were to do a fundraiser. You played something with the concertmaster, 20 minutes of music or something, and they made this huge fundraising event around you, schmoozing and boozing and hors d'oeuvres and all the like. And the organizers of this particular event hired a jazz pianist to provide background music. And that pianist was one of my favorite people. His name was Pete I. Great jazz pianist, just a gem of a person. And I was thinking to myself, I cannot think of a worse gig to have to play. He's working this fundraiser, and you're the headlining act. But this is why I admired you so much. You escaped. You escaped the schmoozing and you went straight to him and you planted yourself in the curve of the piano and you stood there for about a half an hour listening to him play, talking shop with him. It was the most beautiful, warm moment. You put him at ease. He was just doing his job and he was doing a great job at that, and just one musician to another just hanging out. That's what I really admire about you.
Well, it's quite natural and normal, and I'm sure most of us would do the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway.
But the second time you visited Kansas City, that was the time you played Brahms' first piano concerto, and you were sick as a dog. And that was also the weekend that the music director was also sick and couldn't do the concert. And so yes. I walked on stage with you, and we did the concert without a rehearsal.
That was Ann Manson.
Correct, yeah.
Who was 9 months pregnant at the time.
I know.
Couldn't do the last concert. And I was sick. I got food poisoning. and actually wound up in the hospital, was treated so wonderfully by the people at the hospital, with an IV. And once they gave me the IV, I felt a lot better. But it was, yeah, it was a tough weekend, but we got through it.
Sure we did. Sure we did. Have you been that sick in concert before? I mean, there's always that saying, the show must go on, but I got to tell you, that particular weekend was above and beyond.
Yeah, well, I actually, by the time the concert came around, I was actually feeling okay, weak, but okay. It was the morning that was so horrible.
Yeah.
So, anyway, let's talk about something
Much more pleasant things. Yes, so let's actually talk a little bit about the pandemic. What have you been doing this year? Have you had any particular pandemic projects to keep you busy?
We have this little house in the Berkshires in Western Massachusetts, where I've been most of the time.
And that's where you are now?
Yes, and that's where I work. I work at Tanglewood every summer.
Right.
And so we usually spend summers up here, and have been doing that for many, many years, which is why we got this house. And my friend Yo-Yo Ma also has a house up here.
Have you heard of him, Ed? Yo-Yo Ma? Heard of him? Somebody, a cellist maybe? I don't know. Yeah.
The two of us wound up doing a lot of time here, and so we did a record. We recorded the Beethoven sonatas again. That was one thing we did. It was the first record we ever made 40 years ago.
Wow.
And now we did it again. And the other thing was there's some fabulous people here who have very inventive ideas. And last Labor Day, was around Labor Day, somehow Yo-Yo said maybe we should do a couple of pop-up concerts, So I called the piano mover for Tanglewood, and he said, fabulous. I have a truck. We'll put, we get a little clavinova. The Yamaha dealer, the local dealer, very kindly loaned us a clavinova. Yo-Yo had a fiberglass cello, and the two of us went on this truck, and we did 8 or 9 or 10 pop-up 20-minute concerts in parking lots. We played for a fire brigade, for some firemen, some policemen, UPS guys who were delivering everything to everybody, in the parking lot of the local hospital. And it was an amazing collaboration between all the volunteers that made this happen. And the two of us just went around playing these things for a couple of days. So we did that. I've done a little volunteering for some hospital ICUs, just playing online for patients that need some music, in the room, that sort of thing. And practicing. I've learned a few pieces that I never learned before.
Yeah, so that leads me. Is there something in the mainstream repertoire that people would expected you should know, but you just never got around to it, and you thought, I've got the time, I really should learn this piece?
A lot of late Chopin pieces.
Oh yeah.
Hadn't played, which I loved very, very much, but never learned. And so I learned a few of those. That was nice.
Yeah.
So, not doing anything much except trying to help a little bit.
Right.
I wish I were a doctor or a nurse or some kind of frontline worker, but all I can do is provide a little entertainment for people. We've tried to do that. So,
well, as part of your public service, tell us a little bit about your vaccinations. I'm assuming you've been vaccinated. Have you had both of them? And did that spur on your project with Yo-Yo?
No. This was that we did that
way back,
long before.
Okay.
Yeah. The last concerts that either of us were involved in were trio concerts at Carnegie Hall with our friend Leonidas Kavakos, and we finished on the 8th of March, and that was it.
That was it.
We were in a kind of bubble, the two of us. So we were okay wearing masks, but we were sort of all right. No, the shot was fairly recent, and I guess just by age, we're now that my wife and I are both over 70, we got them, a little ahead of other people. But now it's wonderful to see that the rollout is going really well in this country. We've been very lucky.
Right.
I think a lot of people are getting the shots, and
Right.
with any luck, from what I hear in the news today, apparently there'll be enough shots available for everyone before May 1.
Right.
Even.
Yeah. That's a
It's
miracle. Yeah, we are very, very fortunate in this country. And offline, I was telling you, I was talking to friends in Brazil, and the conversation is much different there, obviously, because it's a catastrophe down there. But even the languages that they're using in terms of vaccination, they're talking about the China vaccine plus a Sputnik for your second. Plus, I mean, they're getting vaccine wherever they can find it, and without rhyme nor reason. It just goes to show how lucky we are in this country.
No, we've been incredibly fortunate, and now that that's happening here, I think the U.S. will be able also to look a little bit beyond our shores,
Right.
and later on to help out various other countries,
Right.
which need it so desperately. It's
Right.
Again, the well-developed nations, of course, are doing better at the moment. But one thing we have to remember that the coronavirus doesn't look at
Does not
socioeconomic
discriminate. Yeah.
status. If we don't take care of the whole world, we are at risk.
Right.
It's not only selfless; it's also selfish.
Right. Yep. I
So,
totally agree.
I think we will be helping out, and that's the right thing, of course.
I'm going to go check our chat room again, and you mentioned your wife, so I'm going to come back and talk to you and see how she's doing. Let's see. Oh my goodness, I'll have to find where I left off. There's so many comments. Forgive me if I miss some of them. Let's see here. Anne Lawrence says, lovers of music, encouraging one another. Beautiful. What an example to follow. Thank you, Manny. Blaine Cunningham, our librarian and principal tubist. His oldest daughter had just started piano lessons and was so excited to meet you backstage. I pulled her out of school to bring her to the youth concert in the Paramount. She is still loving piano and practices every day.
Right.
And and this is funny, Caitlin is kind of like textually rolling her eyes. Oh yeah, my friend Yo-Yo Ma. Joyce Finch says, just when we think we can't love you more, you share a pandemic pop-up concert stories. Wow, amazing.
Well, I will say the reason I say my friend Yo-Yo Ma is because we looked back this year, and we realized that we've been playing together for 48 years.
How did you meet?
We met at Juilliard.
Sure.
We were both students. He was very young. He was, I think, 15 and a half or 16, and I was 20, working as the studio pianist for his teacher, for Leonard Rowe. Anyway, so it is in fact a very, very long history.
Sure. Hey, speaking of which, of those new Chopin pieces that you were working on, will you be recording them, do you think, or is this just something for your own pleasure?
I'll certainly be playing them next season if I do have some concerts to play.
Sure.
I will be playing them. Yeah, so I look forward to that.
So I promised I was talk a little bit about your wife, because 4 years ago you said she was retiring, and I guess the last time I heard her was the first time we met in Kansas City when the two of you were performing together. Is that true? Is she cold turkey? Does she still play at home, or what does that mean?
No, she just quit. She loves playing tennis. So she's doing that as much as she can. There obviously this year there have been hitches,
right?
But she loves doing that. We have 2 grandkids. We have 6-year-old twins. So she spends a lot of time dreaming up what we can do for them next.
Right. Spoiling them and then giving them back. Yep.
Busy with that. Yeah, we've had, because we got our shots, we've been able to take them now for 2 weekends. And the happiest people I've seen all year were my son and his wife.
Yeah. Yep. No doubt.
They were so ecstatic to have 3 days to themselves each time. That was very special.
Are they musicians?
And I must say, I think No, not at all. No,
No.
my son is a reporter, and my wife, my daughter-in-law works for a company in New Jersey.
Right. Right.
So they're they're not
Was there ever that?
not musicians.
Was there ever a hesitancy? To open that door for your kids to become musicians?
I don't, I honestly don't think they were so interested. They both had piano lessons.
Sure.
And they were fine. They were fine at it. My daughter, in fact, in college, joined an a cappella group and liked singing. But I don't think they were so fascinated as to think, I want to do this.
Right. Yeah. Huh. So let's talk about the future now. Knock on wood, it looks like normalcy, some degree of normalcy is coming. I would expect. I can only speak for Orchestra Iowa, but we're anticipating business as usual starting in September, really.
Well,
And
we'll hope.
right. And so, what does that mean? What does that mean for you? Is it like a light switch? All of a sudden, you go back to concertizing, or is it a slow ramp up? Or what?
I have theoretically, I have a schedule that looks kind of like my usual year.
Right.
Starting in the fall. But of course, we don't know for sure.
Right. Sure.
We don't know for sure. And I think this will be a kind of, I think for the whole world and for almost every profession, I think there will be differences.
Right. Yep.
I don't expect things to be exactly the way they were. I think a lot of people may realize that office work is not the same as it was.
True. Yep.
That's going to be investment. I have no idea
Right.
what is going to happen, but I just believe it's not going to be exactly the same.
Right.
I think I'll just keep practicing because that's what I do.
Right.
I have no idea what I would do with my life if I didn't practice the piano. But on the other hand, I don't mind at all not playing a lot of concerts. I actually don't mind because, I get nervous when I play. So it was a change not to get nervous twice a week.
Yeah.
That was a big change and in a way very comforting.
I think that's probably one of the biggest surprises people who are watching this right now is that even in your career, a person of your stature, you still get nervous for performances. So that leads me to this question then. So aside from the health crisis, and I don't, did the pandemic give you the gift of time, and how did you benefit from it this year?
I think I just relaxed a little bit. The daily idea of not going to an airport was a really big change, because I traveled so much, and I think this is the first year in, I'm guessing, 35 to 40 years.
Wow.
that I haven't really been flying all the time.
Right.
That's a very big change, and for me, it's been that part of it. You can't say it's been a wonderful experience because it's been such a horrible year for so many people. But if there is a silver lining, that was a real silver lining. Kind of being in a normal state, seeing my wife every day.
Right.
Having a regular, like most people.
Right.
Having a life that's that way. And in a way, even, I won't say 9 to 5, but, having regular hours.
Right.
When I practice the piano, have lunch, maybe practice a little more, go for a long walk, all of that, just sort of very regular. That was a big change.
Right. I agree. Having the gift of time, what I'm most grateful for is having the time with my wife this year and finding out that we still like each other.
I'm crazy about my wife. I'm not sure that the reciprocal is.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to our chat room and see what the comments are, if our audience has any questions for you. But then I'm going to come back and I want to talk a little shop with you. Let's see, what's going on in our chat room? Not much, actually. Danny Redmond just said, "You're a true gentleman." Not too many more questions coming from.
Great. Let's just
we'll carry on. So this is what I found really interesting when we sat down after the concerts. We had a cocktail together, and we were talking about recordings and the like. And you talked about an iconic recording by Rubinstein with the Warsaw Symphony, I believe, of Brahms' Second.
Yes.
So using that as a starting point, there's a television series that I love. It stars Jerry Seinfeld, and it's called Comedians in Cars Having Coffee. And the reason why I love that show is that they talk about the craft. It's not just about being funny, it's the actual professionalism and what makes certain comedians great. So let's start with Rubinstein and that recording. What makes him unique? I mean, what was so great about that particular recording and him more in general?
Well, in general, I would say it's the combination of absolute mastery of the keyboard and of the piece that he's playing, and at the same time a kind of poetry that he always had, and a kind of nobility that he always had. That's what he transmitted. When you saw him in concert, you always felt like you were in the presence of royalty, but royalty in the best sense.
Right.
No, not royalty by birth, but royalty by accomplishment.
Right. Yeah.
And if you liked music, you know, he really got you so involved in the heroic, emotional, noble aspects of the piece he was playing, and that's certainly true of this concerto. And the other thing that is particularly amazing about this recording is that when he made it, he was 71 years old, and he sounds like an incredibly well-educated 21-year-old. It's full of life, passion, brilliance, and he sounds like a young man. As simple as that. So it's that combination of wisdom and youth, energy, enthusiasm, all of that together that made him unique.
So let's continue talking about some of those great old masters. Let's say Gilals.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They were all unique.
Yeah.
No, they were all. It's to say all unique is maybe wrongly grammatically wrong, but no, in fact, they all had their world and their identity. So Gilels was one of my absolute favorite pianists. I was lucky enough to hear him live at Carnegie Hall.
Wow.
I must have been 15 or 16. And in fact, my very old friend, Garrick Olson, great pianist, and we're almost the same age. He's like a year older or something, but we met the morning after that recital.
Yeah.
We both heard Gilels, and we went to our Saturday morning Juilliard prep, you know, the Juilliard young kids classes on Saturday mornings. And we met each other in the hall, and I said, I heard this. Oh, were you at that concert? And that's how we kind of started becoming friends. He was another, he was another one. He created his own world. Horowitz, of course, Richter, the young Vladimir Ashkenazy,
right,
the young Maurizio Pollini, the young Martha Argerich. These were all people who created a world that when you heard them, you thought, this is the only way to play.
Right. See if you can narrow this down, because I think to a layperson, they're easily impressed by virtuosity. I admire color. And who are some of the either past greats or some of your contemporaries who are you just believe just have this touch that they can get colors out of that instrument? That how do they do that?
Well, there are lots. All the pianists I admire, and there are lots of them. I'm a real pianophile. I love so many pianists. They all understand about color. But, color is a funny thing on the piano, because the piano is an instrument that you can't do much about after you strike the key.
Right, yeah.
You hit the key, and that's it.
Yeah.
And the only thing you can really control is the amount of force you use to hit the key and how long you hold it.
Yeah.
So the art of making music colorful on the piano is, I think, the art of how you combine all the notes you play and their relationship to each other.
Right.
It's the relationship of one note to the other, whether it's in a chord or whether it's in a melody. Horowitz once said, and I think it's really the right way to say it, said the art of piano playing is the art of the second note.
Yeah.
Whatever you do with the first note, it's how you go on that's important in a melody. And whatever you do with the top note, it's important what goes on underneath. So that's what great pianists do.
I remember asking you this question when you were here, and we were talking about repertoire and concerti. I mean, there's certain favorites among audience members. But then I asked the question, so what are some of the great concertos that are being written now? And you intimated that you thought maybe the Ligeti will have some legs.
I think Ligeti will have performances. Yeah, there'll be people who really want to play it. That, in a way, is the secret. When you get pianists that really want to work on something and play it, that can popularize the music.
Right.
I think John Adams.
Right.
I think he's one. Maybe Thomas Addis. Maybe Ligeti. It's hard for me to know, because I won't be around.
Yeah.
When these judgments are made. And of course, history is a very harsh judge.
Right.
I had a very funny event here in the Berkshires. I spoke, I had kind of a question answer thing at the Stockbridge Library, the local library. And we were talking about this very thing, and I said, history is a very hard judge of everything, literature as well, and I said, look, for example, Anthony Trollope was such a popular novelist in his time. Who today reads Anthony Trollope? And in that group, 3/4 of the people put their hands up.
Oh no!
I thought, wow, this is some group.
Right. Know? Yeah. So much for my point. Oops. I'm going to go back to our chat room, and then I'll finish up here, because you've been incredibly gracious with your time, and I have to tell you, just on a personal note, I've been having a ball just talking to you.
I have to leave in a few minutes. Sure. Because I have my, as we talked about schedule, I have my scheduled dinner with my wife.
Perfect. So. Yes, we cannot disappoint here. So quickly, let's see what's going on. Denny Redmond, who's a jazzer, thought was a real fan of Bill Evans as a master of color. Carla Gettle was a real fan of Philippe Entremont. My very first recording of the Saint-Saëns Second Piano Concerto was his. And it's funny, I can't get that sound out of my head.
He was a wonderful pianist.
Yeah. So we're going to end with a little bit of a game that I like to call This or That. Okay. I'm just going to give you a choice of two things, and you can only choose one.
Okay.
So this or that.
Okay.
So, okay. Are you ready? And I have to tell you, these questions will get more and more difficult as we go on.
Okay.
We're going to start with something easy. Coke or Pepsi? Coke or Pepsi? You have to choose one.
Coke.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Steinway or Bösendorfer?
Oh, Steinway for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, are you a Steinway artist?
Yes. But
Of course. No, I'm joking. Yeah.
but I actually do love the Steinway, and I will say Bösendorfers are wonderful pianos.
Yeah.
I just don't play them very often.
Sure. By the way, as a geek moment aside, are there still differences between the New York and the Hamburg Steinways?
Yeah, they're trying to make less difference. I still like the German ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
But as I said, I didn't mean to diss Bösendorfer, but you're
course
telling
not.
me choose one. You have to choose
I
one.
know. That's the rules. You know, I'm sorry. Ed made up the rules. You can blame him. Okay. So this or that, hamburger or hot dog?
Oh, hamburger.
Okay. Okay. Rubinstein or Horowitz?
Can't answer.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Boxers or briefs?
Pants.
Okay. Okay. Nice dodge. Nice dodge. Scotch or bourbon?
Neither.
Neither. Okay.
I drink wine.
Okay. Oh, excellent. Excellent third choice. Okay. Now the gloves come off. The gloves come off.
Okay.
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 Chopin or Brahms?
Ooh. Do I have to pick one?
The answer I'm looking for is actually Bach, but that's okay.
Well, I've got the beard,
There you
so
go.
I'll pick Chopin. Clean shaven. Okay.
Perfectly. Okay, and then finally, and this will tell our audience more about you than any of these questions in this interview. Chopsticks or heart and soul?
Oh, heart and soul.
Heart and soul. Thank you so much for playing. Can you stick around so I can say goodbye properly to you off air? And I'm going to say goodbye to our audience. Am I on this camera over here, Ed? So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a real thrill for me personally. It's great to have the great Emanuel Ax with us. Thank you so much for tuning in for Happy Hour. And if you love this episode, please consider donating to our Venmo at Orchestra Iowa. We couldn't do this without your support. Next week, my guest is going to be former Executive Director Robert Massey of Orchestra Iowa, who went on to lead the orchestras in Jacksonville and the Louisville Symphony Orchestra. He'll be back, and I can sure tell you that I'm going to make him pay for at least 2 or 3 initial rounds. So join us back this time next week. And again, thank you to the great Emanuel Ax. Thank you so much for being our guest. And with that, we'll see you next week, everybody.